Page 55, January 12th. Dear Mr. Henshaw, this is a real letter I am going to mail. Maybe I had better explain that I have written you many letters that are really my diary, which I keep because you said so, and because Mom still won't have the TV repaired. She wants my brain to stay in good shape. She says I will need my brain all my life. Guess what? Today the school librarian stopped me in the hall and said she had something for me. She told me to come to the library. There she handed me your new book and said I could be the first to read it. I must have looked surprised. She says she knew how much I love your books since I check them out so often. Now I know Mr. Findlay isn't the only one who notices me. I am on page 14 of Beggar Bears. It is a good book. I just wanted you to know that I am the first person around here to get to read it. Your #1 fan, Lee Botts. So on this page, Lee finds out that the librarian also notices him too. Page 56, January 15th. Dear Mr. Henshaw, I finished Beggar Bears in 2 nights. It is a really good book. At first I was surprised because it wasn't funny like your other books, but then I got to thinking. You said authors should think, and decided a book doesn't have to be funny to be good, although it often helps. This book did not need to be funny. In the first chapter, I thought it was going to be funny. I guess I expected it because of your other books and because the mother bear was teaching her twin cubs to beg from tourists in Yellowstone Park. Then when the mother died because a stupid tourist fed her a cupcake in a plastic bag and she ate the bag too, I knew this was going to be a sad book. Winter was coming on and tourists were leaving the park and the little bears didn't know how to find food for themselves. When they hibernated and then woke up in the middle of winter because they had eaten all the wrong things and hadn't stored up enough fat, I almost cried. I sure was relieved when the nice ranger and his boy found the young bears and fed them, and the next summer taught them to hunt for the right things to eat. I wonder what happens to the fathers of bears. Do they just go away? Sometimes I lie awake listening to the gas station peeing, and I worry because something might happen to Mom. She is so little compared to most moms, and she works so hard. I don't think Dad is that much interested in me. He didn't phone me when he said he would. I hope your book wins 1,000,000 awards. Sincerely, Lee Botts. So he actually read one of Mr. Henshaw's books, Beggar Bears, and as you see that he is connecting and relating to the book that he's reading by kind of comparing. He says, do all dad bears go away? And also he's a little bit afraid because the mother bear died. He's a little bit worried that his mother will die. So he's relating and connecting from his book, like we do in class. Page 58, January 19th. Dear Mr. Henshaw, thank you for sending me the postcard with a picture of the lake and mountains and all that snow. Yes, I will continue to write in my diary even if I do have to pretend I am writing to you. You know something? I think I feel better when I write in my diary. My teacher says my writing skills are improving. Maybe I really will be a famous author someday. She said our school, along with some other schools, is going to print, that means mimeograph, a book of work of young authors, and I should write a story for it. The writers of the best work will win a prize, lunch with a famous author and with winners from other schools. I hope that famous author is you. I don't often get mail, but today I received 2 postcards, one from you and one from Dad in Kansas. His card showed a picture of a grain elevator. He said he would phone me sometime next week. I wish someday he would have to drive a load of something to Wyoming and would take me along so I could get to meet you. That's all for now. I am going to try to think of a story. Don't worry, I won't send it to you to read. I know you are busy and I don't want to be a nuisance. Your good friend, Lee Botts the First. So Lee is having a good day. He got 2 postcards, one from Mr. Henshaw and one from his dad. And then also he found out that if you write a story, you can meet with a famous author, and he wishes that famous author would be Mr. Henshaw. So he's going to try to think of a story to write. Page 61, from the Diary of Lee Botts. Saturday, January 20th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, every time I try to think up a story, it turns out to be like something someone else has written. It's usually you. I want to do what you said in your tips and write like me, not like somebody else. I'll keep trying because I want to be a young author with my story printed, mimeographed. Maybe I can't think of a story because I'm waiting for Dad to call. I get so lonesome when I'm alone at night when Mom is at her nursing school. Yesterday, somebody stole a piece of wedding cake from my lunch bag. It was the kind catering by Katie packs in little white boxes for people to take home from weddings. Mr. Fridley noticed me scowling again and said, "So the lunch bag thief strikes again?" I said, "Yeah, and my dad didn't phone me." He said, "Don't think you are the only boy around here with a father who forgets." I wonder if this is true. Mr. Finley keeps an eye on just about everything around school, so he probably knows. I wish I had a grandfather like Mr. Finley. He is so nice, sort of baggy, and comfortable. Monday, January 29th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, Dad still hasn't phoned, and he promised he would. Mom keeps telling me I shouldn't get my hopes up because Dad sometimes forgets. I don't think he should forget what he wrote on a postcard. I feel terrible. Tuesday, January 30th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, I looked in my book of highway maps and figured out that Dad should be back in Bakersfield by now, but he still hasn't phoned. Mom says I shouldn't be too hard on him because a trucker's life isn't easy. Truckers sometimes lose some of their hearing in their left ear from the wind rushing past the driver's window. She says truckers get out of shape from sitting such long hours without exercise and from eating too much greasy food. Sometimes they get ulcers from the strain of trying to make good time on a highway. Time is money for a trucker. I think she's just trying to make me feel good, but I don't. I feel rotten. I said, if a trucker's life is so hard, how come Dad is in love with his truck? Mom said, it's not really his truck he is in love with. He loves the feel of power when he is sitting high in his cab controlling a mighty machine. He loves the excitement of never knowing where his next trip will take him. He loves the mountains and the desert sunrises and the sight of orange trees heavy with oranges and the smell of fresh mown alfalfa. I know because I rode with him until you came along. I still feel terrible. If Dad loves all those things so much, why can't he love me? And maybe if I hadn't been born, Mom might still be riding with Dad. Maybe I'm to blame for everything. So Lee is having a hard time because his dad said he would phone next week, and he hasn't phoned him yet. And so he even said what his mom said. He's in love with his truck, but his mom was trying to explain why he really loves to be on the road, is to see new places. And then now Lee is blaming himself for maybe them not being together, and he thinks that his mom might still be with his dad if it wasn't for him being born. Wednesday, January 31st. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, Dad still hasn't phoned. A promise is a promise, especially when it is in writing. When the phone does ring, it is always a call from one of the women Mom works with. I am filled with wrath. I got that out of a book, but not one of yours. I am mad at Mom for divorcing Dad. As she says, it takes two people to get a divorce, so I am mad at two people. I wish Bandit was here to keep me company. Bandit and I didn't get a divorce. They did. So now he's mad at his mom, too, because they're not together. And he really misses Bandit. Thursday, February 1st. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, today there was bad news in the paper. The sugar refinery is going to shut down. Even though Dad hauls cross-country now, I keep hoping sometime he might haul a really big load of sugar beets to Spreckles. Now maybe I'll never see him again. Friday, February 2nd. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, I am writing this because I am trapped in my room with a couple of babies sleeping in baskets on my bed. Mom has some of her women friends over. They sit around drinking coffee or herb tea and talking about their problems, which are mostly men, money, kids, and landlords. Some of them piece quilts while they talk. They hope to sell them for extra money. It is better to stay in here with the babies than go out and say, Hello. Sure, I liked school fine. Yes, I guess. I have grown and all that. Mom is right about Dad and his truck. I remember how exciting it was to ride with him and listen to calls on his Citizens Band radio. Dad pointed out how hawks sit on telephone wires waiting for little animals to run over so they won't have to bother to hunt. Dad says civilization is ruining hawks. He was hauling a gondola full of tomatoes that day, and he said that some tomatoes are grown specially so they are so strong they won't squash when loaded into a gondola. They may not taste like much, but they don't squash. That day we had to stop at a weigh scale. Dad had used up enough diesel oil so his load was just under the legal weight, and the highway patrol didn't make him pay fine for carrying too heavy a load. Then we had lunch at the truck stop. Everybody seemed to know Dad. The waitresses all said, "Well, look who just rolled in. Our old pal Wild Bill," and things like that. Wild Bill from Bakersfield is the name Dad uses on his CB radio. When Dad said, "Meet my kid," I stood up as tall as I could so that they would think I was going to grow up as big as Dad. The waitresses all laughed a lot around Dad. For lunch, we had chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes with lots of gravy, peas out of a can, and apple pie with ice cream. Our waitress gave me extra ice cream to help me grow big like Dad. Most truckers ate real fast and laughed, but Dad kidded around a while and played the video games. Dad always runs up a high score no matter which machine he plays. Mom's friends are collecting their babies, so I guess I will go to bed now. So he's thinking of a time when he was with his dad on the road and then stopping for lunch at a truck stop. Sunday, February 4th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, I hate my father. Mom is usually home on Sunday, but this week there was a big golf tournament, which means rich people have parties, so she had to go squirt deviled crab into about 1,000,000 little cream puff shells. Mom never worries about meeting the rent when there is a big golf tournament. I was all alone in the house. It was raining and I didn't have anything to read. I was supposed to scrub off some of the mildew on the bathroom walls with some smelly stuff, but I didn't because I was mad at Mom for divorcing Dad. I feel that way sometimes, which makes me feel awful because I know how hard she has to work and try to go to school too. I kept looking at the telephone until I couldn't stand it any longer. I picked up the receiver and dialed Dad's number over in Bakersfield. I even remembered to dial 1 first because it was long distance. All I wanted was to hear the phone ringing in Dad's trailer, which wouldn't cost Mom anything because nobody would answer. Except Dad answered. I almost hung up. He wasn't off in some other state. He was in his trailer and he hadn't phoned me. "You promised to phone me this week and you didn't," I said. I felt I had to talk to him. "Take it easy, kid," he said. "I just didn't get around to it. I was going to call this evening. The week isn't over yet." I thought about this. "Something on your mind?" he asked. I didn't know what to say, so I said, "My lunch. Somebody steals the good stuff out of my lunch." "Find him and punch him in the nose," said Dad. I could tell he didn't think my lunch was important. "I hoped you would call," I said. I waited and waited. Then I was sorry I said it. I have some pride left. "There was heavy snow in the mountains," he said. "I had to chain up on Highway 80 and lost time." From my map book, I know Highway 80 crosses the Sierra. I also know about putting chains on trucks. When the snow is heavy, truckers have to put chains on the drive wheels, all 8 of them. Putting chains on 8 big wheels in the snow is no fun. I felt a little better. "How's Bandit?" I asked, as long as we were talking. There was a funny silence. For a minute I thought the line was dead. Then I knew something must have happened to my dog. "How's Bandit?" I asked again, louder, in case Dad might have lost some of the hearing in his left ear from all that wind rushing by. "Well, kid," he began. "My name is Lee," I almost yelled. "I'm not just some kid you met on the street." "Keep your shirt on, Lee," he said. "When I had to stop along with some other truckers to put on chains, I let Bandit out of the cab. I thought he would get right back in because it was snowing so hard, but after I chained up, he wasn't in the cab." "Did you leave the door open for him?" I asked. Big pause. "I could have sworn I did," he said, which I meant he didn't. Then he said, I whistled and whistled, but Bandit didn't come. I couldn't wait any longer because the highway patrol was talking about closing Highway 80. I couldn't get stranded up there in the mountains when I had a deadline for delivering a load of TV sets to a dealer in Denver. I had to leave. I'm sorry, kid, Lee, but that's the way it is. You left Bandit to freeze to death? I was crying from anger. How could he? Bandit knows how to take care of himself, said Dad. I'll bet dollars to donuts he jumped into another truck that was leaving. I wiped my nose on my sleeve. Why would the driver let him? I asked. Because he thought Bandit was lost, said Dad, and he had to get on with his load before the highway was closed, the same as I did. He couldn't leave a dog to freeze. What about your CB radio? I asked. Didn't you send out a call? Sure I did, but I didn't get an answer. Mountains cut down on reception, Dad told me. I was about to say I understood, but here comes the bad part, the really bad part. I heard a boy's voice say, Hey, Bill, Mom wants to know when we're going out to get the pizza. I felt as if my insides were falling out. I hung up. I didn't want to hear any more. When Mom had to pay for the phone call, I didn't want to hear any more at all. To be continued. So this was a deep emotions for Lee in this chapter, or this part with his dad. He finally got a hold of his dad, and his dad actually didn't even he was nonchalant about it, and it made Lee even angrier, asking him why didn't he call. Then he found out that his dad lost his dog Bandit in the snow, and so he's worried and scared. And then at the very end, he hears a boy's voice call out to his dad to say, hey, about going out for pizza. So that was crushing to Lee.